The Atom range of grinders from Eureka have always been top-of-the-line options for either commercial or home use. New for 2024, the Atom W75 and W65 have improved upon Eureka's already high-end quality once again. Hi there, Brian here with Whole Latte Love. These two grinders that I have next to me here have been hotly anticipated, and I'll say they're worth the wait. The Atom W65 and Atom W75 take the performance of Eureka's Atom range of grinders and add grind-by-weight technology. Now, last year you may remember I reviewed Eureka's Mignon Libra grinder that brought high-end grind-by-weight technology to the home espresso marketplace. Eureka took what they learned from the Libra, improved upon it, and brought it to the luxurious Atom range. Coming up in this video, I'll cover the features of these grinders. I'll go through a standard workflow, and I'll share with you my in-depth testing results. I'll take you under the hood and go over some tips and tricks for best practices and more. So one of the first things you'll probably notice about these new Atom grinders is the build quality improvements. And what I'm talking about there is this middle part right here is just one solid piece of metal that wraps all the way around it. You've got the base, you've got this wraparound section, you've got the screen and the lid, and those are all the housing that you've got on this. And it is a 25-pound grinder. It is very serious commercial grade quality. And so they built this new shell, let's say, this new housing, and they liked it so much that they decided to make not only the W series, but also the Atom Excellence series. And so you've got the Atom Excellence 65 and Atom Excellence 75. I've got the 75 behind me over here. First thing you'll notice about that is that it's got a much larger hopper. However, it only does timed grind dosing, whereas the W's do both time grinding and grind by weight. And we'll go over that a little bit later. But when it comes to the numbers on the grinders, both on the W and on the Excellence, the 65 refers to the size of the burrs. So we've got a 65 millimeter burr in the 65s, 75 millimeter burrs in the 75s. And up here on the top, we've got the large Eureka micrometric stepless grind adjustment knob. Nice knurling on that. You can really dial in your grind size just perfectly. Moving down, we've got the IPS touchscreen display here, LCD screen. Huge upgrade over the older model Eureka touchscreens, and so this is just as responsive as your cell phone's touchscreen and looks great. And then moving down a little further is the fork. Now this fork is a commercial grade fork, as you can clearly see. It is sturdy, it is set with Phillips head screws, and it will stay in place once you set it initially. So all you have to do, there's no switches, there's no button pressing. All you have to do is take your portafilter, put it in there, let it go, and it'll start grinding for you. And that's it. And really all you would need from that point is just a tamp, and you'd be ready to brew. Now for sort of an initial startup / workflow on these grinders, the first thing you're going to want to do is to calibrate the fork to the portafilter you're going to use. To do that, first we have to turn off the grinder, just to make sure that it's not going to try and start grinding on us while we're adjusting it. As you can see, the way we have it right now, that's a little bit loose. That has a little bit too much play in there for that to tear properly. So what we need to do is adjust these two Phillips head screws down here in the cradle to make it so that it fits just right. So what we need to do first is just loosen them just a touch. Very little, just so that it's enough that it'll move, but not enough that it'll like slip out. Get that in, put your portafilter in there. I like to use two hands. Cradle that up in there so that it's nice and snug, and then take the portafilter out. From there, we're going to tighten these two screws back up. And of course, that shouldn't be too hard because we didn't loosen them that much. And there we have it. That is nice and snug there. That is not going to wiggle around too much, and that'll tear properly now. So next step is going to be to turn our grinder back on here. And from there, you can adjust the dose that you want. For instance, we have it set to 18 grams here. You can change it within 1/10 of a gram increments. Like, let's say we want to do 16.9, there you go. But for this portafilter basket, I do want that 18. And that's not 18 seconds, I want to remind you again. That's 18 grams of output coffee because it's weighing it. And then all you have to do, no buttons pushed, put your portafilter in there, hands free, and it'll give you that 18 grams. And then, you can dial it in. My good friend Mark made a great video on dialing in your grinder, and that'll be up here in the corner here. And you can go watch that. It'll tell you everything you need to know about getting your grinder to the right grind size to produce the best espresso possible. In testing these grinders, I dialed in both of them with our Whole Latte Love Crema Wave Espresso blend, which is medium dark roast, to output an average particle size of around 250 microns. That's a typical grind size for espresso. From there, using an 18-gram dose, I tested the grinding speed, the grind by weight accuracy, the operating noise level, and did full particle distribution analysis. Now, in testing the grind speed of these grinders, first thing I did was set the grinders to grind by time instead of weight. And that's actually a pretty easy thing to do. All you have to do is access the menu by pressing the bottom buttons twice, then use the caret up here to move over a couple screens, and you'll see grinding mode. You've got grind by weight and grind by time. Obviously, you can't have them both set at the same time, so when you switch one, it changes the other one as well. So now we're set to grind by time, and when you come back to the main menu, you'll see that the menu is green instead of red. And that's how you know that you're set to grind by time instead of weight. From there, I set the grind time to output approximately 18 grams of ground coffee. For the W65, that ended up being right at about 5.3 seconds. For the W75, 4.6 seconds. Then I ran it 10 times and then averaged the results, divided it by the time. Pretty simple. For the W65, we got 3.44 grams per second. And for the larger burrs of the W75, 3.95 grams per second. Now, in testing the noise level of these grinders, we set up our decibel meter a standard operating distance away. Average human ear height by 2 feet away. Now, I'm a little taller, so it's probably a little quieter for me, one of the many benefits of being a little taller. But both of these grinders performed almost identically at a high of 78 decibels and an average of 74 decibels. But decibels don't really tell you everything. Both of these grinders kind of purr along at a lower pitch than a lot of other grinders in this range, that it can sometimes be a little bit higher pitched and a little harder on the ears. I find both of these to be very pleasing grinding sound. And not only that, but because of how fast they grind, you would only need to hear that sound for a maximum of maybe 5 seconds at a time. In testing the grind by weight accuracy of these grinders, I set both of them to output 18 grams of ground coffee. As you can see by the chart, neither one of them missed the mark by more than 0.2 of a gram at any time, with the 65 having an average output of 17.94 grams with a standard deviation of 0.13 of a gram, and the 75 having an average output of 17.92 grams with a standard deviation of 0.08 of a gram. Unbelievable numbers from grind by weight grinders. Really, you don't have to worry about it, and that's the beauty of grind by weight grinding. For particle analysis testing, I used our Lightel CM200 particle analyzer. As I mentioned earlier, the grinders were both dialed in to output a median particle size as close to 250 microns as possible. Then each sample was tested 5 times and the results were averaged together. As you can see on this graph, the Atom W65 hit a median particle size of 248 microns, while the 75 came in at 252 microns. What I'm looking for here is anything out of the ordinary in these results, and both of these grinders performed almost identically and as expected, with the highest output at 200 microns and below, with a steady decrease from there. Now it's time for me to roll up my proverbial sleeves and take you under the hood of these bad boys. We're going to do the 75, and so what you need to do is remove 3 2mm Allen screws. And so we'll just get started on that. Yeah, and so those come with, as you can see here, the small little washers on there. You're going to want to hold on to those. All right, and then all you got to do is remove this top plate. And I want to mention it again real quick that when you're adjusting the grind size, you're adjusting the distance of the bottom burr from the stationary top burr. So I can do all this and it won't lose my set grind size that I have set on the micrometric grind adjustment. Next, we have these 3 pretty nice sized Phillips head screws. So you're going to need a nice Phillips head screwdriver there. Get at those. All right, now from there, all we have to do is remove the top burr carrier there. You can see our beautiful 75 millimeter burrs. You've got your bottom. And an important thing, I didn't mention it at the top, but an important thing is before I did this, you better believe I unplugged it because you don't want to mess with that. So, and if you were to remove the front to get to the chute, you would just need 2.5 millimeter Phillips heads here. And you know, once you're in here, if you have a brush like this nice Vitamin one right here, you could get in here and give it a quick brushing, clean out all the grounds that might collect in here. You might get, you know, a little bit of retention, but not a whole lot, honestly. And then clean the other burrs too. And then all you would do is just put it back together the way you took it apart. And there you go. That's really all you need to do. 6 simple screws to access that grinding chamber. Clean it out. These burrs are rated for 500 kilograms, so that's like half a ton of coffee. So really, they're going to last you for quite a long time. So you really shouldn't need to replace them. But when you do, this is the procedure you would need to do. Now I'm going to take you through a couple quick tips and tricks to better utilize your Atom 75 and 65 grinders. First thing is, because of the redesign of the fork, it actually will accept dosing cups, especially the 45 gram Eureka dosing cup. All you have to do is just put it on there like anything else, and it'll tear it like a portafilter and dose your coffee as usual. For people that like to use dosing cups, that's really nice, like myself. Another great thing about this grinder is maybe down the line you start to notice it's not dosing out quite as nice as it used to. Calibrating it is not that challenging. So all you have to do is go into the menu here, go into the second menu, and then keep going over until you get to calibration. And then what you're going to do is press and hold for 3 seconds. And that'll bring you to the calibration menu. You'll see we've got 6 grams flashing up there and the tare button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my portafilter now and I'm going to put it on there. And you can adjust this number to say whatever you want it to be. But let's just keep it at 6. And then once you get your portafilter on there, you press the tare button. And that's going to tare it to your portafilter. The tare button changes to calibration. And now what you're going to do is remove that. And then let's just use the coffee that we already ground here. And we're going to add 6 grams of coffee to our portafilter. Just like this. Just a little bit more. 6 grams. And then all you have to do is take that and put that back in there and let it know that that's 6 grams by pressing the calibration button. If everything went as planned, you should get the little green check mark letting you know that everything was recalibrated properly. All that information is all well and good, but who are these grinders really for? Both the W and the Excellence models would fit in perfectly on bar at your local coffee shop or paired with a prosumer at home. Grind by weight grinders such as the W offer such wonderful time-saving workflow improvements, and the speed, accuracy, and simple hands-free operation put these new Atom grinders in a class of their own. If you have any questions about these grinders, feel free to ask away down in the comments. Once again, I'm Brian, thanks for watching, and be sure to check back soon for more of the best on everything coffee.